Hello everybody and welcome back. This next video in the series, and this one is about how to find your family. If you have no family tree, you have no information, all you have is your DNA. You've taken the Ancestry DNA test, perhaps you're adopted and you're looking for your biological family. How do you do it? So if you're in that situation, you don't have DNA circles, you don't have through lines, you don't have shared hints. You have nothing except your DNA matches. Ancestry's given you some DNA matches, and you've just got this list. Okay, so we're going to assume that we're working with my list just like you. And now my list is a little unfair here because I've actually got a mother in this list at 3471. So we're going to exempt mother from this list, and we're going to go about things just as I had to do in order to find out who my biological father was. Okay, when I took the DNA test, the person that was my father's brother took it, and we weren't related. My father, or that I thought was my father, the birth certificate said it was my father, it wasn't my father. So just like you, I had to do this. So how do you do it? Well, I'm going to show you how. So we look at the first person in our match list here, and they matched at 1,606 centimorgans. And if you don't understand centimorgans, I recommend you go over, watch the centimorgans video, because this will be a whole lot more clear to you. So watch it, then watch this one, and then it'll really fast track what you're doing. So I enter the 1,606 centimorgans, and it shows that it has these 7 possibilities. But notice these two: great aunt or uncle, great niece and nephew. It says this set of relationships is within the threshold, but has 0 probability. It's not going to be either the great aunt or uncle or great niece or nephew. And honestly, you're not looking for your own grandchild. That your grandchild's not on this list without you knowing it. So you're looking for a niece, nephew, half sibling, grandparent, or aunt, uncle. So at this point, you've got to do things a little manual, and you reach out and contact them via the Ancestry message, and you send them a message, maybe exchange an email address, and you find out a little information. The key one you need to know is, how old are they? That's one of the main things. Now, it's going to make them a little suspicious. Hey, how old are you? So when you phrase your letter, greetings, we're DNA match, we're trying to find, information about my family. I don't know how, we connect, but at 1606 we're a strong connection. Could you help me? And tell them a little bit about yourself. I'm 56 years old, live in Texas, and I'm trying to find this out. Well, they respond back. Their name is Rosa Brown, and said that they're 86 years old. Okay, well, here's me, self, niece, nephew. That means that a brother or sister would had to have been born, grown to the age of 20, then had a child, then that child be 86 years old. Thus, my sibling would be 106. They would be over 50 years older than me for this to take place. So this person is not my niece or nephew. Are they my half sibling? There are extreme situations that, a person could be 30 years different in their sibling, but that means that, like the mother gave birth to the first one at 20 and the next child at 50. While possible, it's not likely. So you're really looking at, probabilities. And again, we're trying to find out who, our biological family is. So, we're going to go with probability first. We're going to cast a big net, and we're going to catch the big fish, and then we're going to go from there and figure it out. So that means that this person, who's a lady, Rosa, is either my grandmother or my aunt. Okay? Those are the only two it could be. So I ask her, do you know of anybody else in the family that's taken a test? Well, yes. My son took the test, and Michael Barton, and he's 731. So now we're going to enter 731 into the DNA painter. And so we enter 731 into the DNA painter. And again, if Rosa was my grandmother, Michael would be either my parent or my uncle. So if he was my father, he'd have to match me at 3,400. Well, he doesn't. He's 731. To be my uncle, he has to have a minimum of 1,349 centimorgans, which he doesn't, not at 731. So Rosa cannot be my grandmother. She can only be my aunt. Okay? And that's very important. She can only be my aunt. We've eliminated every other possibility. And Michael is my first cousin. All right, now we're getting some major headroom right here. So we know that Rosa is my full aunt. Now this is tremendous information because Rosa's parents, who she tells me are Clarence Brown and Dolly McFarlane, are my grandparents. Now, I don't know whether it was a sister who gave me up for adoption. I don't know whether it was a brother who maybe didn't know I existed. I don't know the situation, and we're going to find that out. But, at this point, it's exciting because I know who my grandparents are. Okay? It's Dolly McFarlane and Clarence Brown. So I asked, did anybody else take the test? Well, at, that point, she points me in this direction and says, this is her half sister. Well, half sister, that's 840. So we put in, 840, and we come up, and this lady, Audrey, is 83 years old. And here I am self. Here's the generation above. All right, half sister. It fits perfect. So I now know Rose is my aunt. I know Audrey is my half aunt. All right, we're building out the family tree. So, we're going along. Well, what about JC? Do you know JC? Well, no, I don't know who that is. So we look at JC, and we're going to look at their tree. And so we come up here, and it says Gerald, Edmund Brown, Francis Keeley. So you can see we actually exchanged 32 messages before we ended up connecting on Facebook and stuff. But in these messages, who was your mother? Who was your father? Well, my mother was Doris Geraldine Brown. Okay. So, and at this point, this one wasn't in the list. All right. So we got Dolly McFarlane and we got Clarence Brown. Brown's a pretty common name. So what we're going to do at this point is we're actually going to do a search, for Dolly McFarlane. And the way McFarlane was spelled and Dolly was spelled, it should give us an advantage over the other names. So we put this, and they may have given us a birth year to narrow it down, but we're going to look here, do family tree, see what we can find. So we come up here, and here we go, Clarence Brown. And so we know that we have the right one here. So we're going to look at this tree. All right, we've got a home run here. We've got, looks like a fairly well-documented node. We've got census reports from 1920, 30, and 40. There's not a 1910 for Dolly. But other than that, it looks like pretty good information, Social Security information. So what we have here, we have the number of children. And again, I know you can't take trees at face value just by looking at them, but we're trying to find out who our biological family is. So, it's okay to make what I call a dirty tree. It's okay to make a working tree because we're simply trying to find out, who our family is. Okay, we're not looking to, cross the T's and dot the I's on, every census report, every land deed record, birth and death certificates. That's how we'll shore up our information afterwards. Right now, we simply want to find out who our family is. So from this, we have, we knew our grandparents, Dolly McFarlane and Clarence Edmund Brown. So we have the family here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now, Rosa said there were 5 children of Clarence and 3 that were the half siblings. Audrey told me the same thing. She had 2 full siblings and 5 half siblings. So these are the 3 right here that are the half aunt, and half uncle. Well, I know it's not any of these 3 simply because I would be a full relationship to them, a full aunt. And because I'm a half aunt, I know that we don't share both same biological grandparents. Okay? So to find out who I share the same biological grandparents with, I know it's one of these 5. Well, now, Doris was right here. Doris Geraldine. And her daughter was JC that was in our list. JC was a first cousin. If Doris would have been my mother, JC would have been my sister, or at least a half sister. And at 783 or 781, that was way too low. Over here was Rosa, and Rosa matched at 1606, which was very strong, which is what Doris Geraldine would have matched had she taken the test. But again, her son Michael only matched me in the 700s. Therefore, he or she can't be my mother, because then Michael would be my half brother. And again, 731 is way too low for that. Now, this makes it really exciting. Now I'm left with 3 brothers. So now I know this is my father's family. Okay, this is, if I didn't know, and I was starting from scratch, I knew that was my father's family when I was looking, but we're starting here, just raw data, and I know that it's one of these three brothers. I know it's Ernest, Larkin, or unknown. Okay, so we'll look in the census reports. And what do we have for the brothers? We have Ernest and we have Larkin. Okay, so let's look at the one before that. And we have Ernest and Paul. So the oldest brother was Paul, then Ernest, and then significantly later down we had Larkin. So Paul was the oldest, then Ernest and Larkin in this area. But we know this one's name is Paul, this one's Larkin, and this is Ernest. So let's go back over to the match list, and we come here to this one, because this one then was tested. And we come here and we look. We have a Larkin Brown. We have a daughter, Rebecca, and them. Okay, so they match us at 753. So let's put this in to our DNA painter. And remember, they're a generation below us. So at 753, and they're a generation below us, so here's self. So they're in this generation. So they're either a first cousin once removed or a half niece or nephew. Well, they're 753. And that's closer to the 400s, the 800s. Well, 753, that's over here. So this is a half niece of mine. Therefore, this would have been a half sister of mine. Therefore, this is my father. Okay, so we've been able to use the centimorgans and the trees that we're able to find. So just in the period of time that we've been talking right now, just with the effort and using the methods that we talked about now, we were able to take the DNA information, just the match list information, and find one of my parents. Okay, I now have my father. So what I would do then on my member matches, I would come over and I would click on this first person because, this is my aunt, which has the same basic as my father would. And this is almost like having my father's DNA here. And I would click on Add Edit Groups, Paternal, and I would flag every single one of them as paternal. Okay. Then I would come back to my DNA matches and I would look for somebody that wasn't flagged. Now in this one, because my mother's taking a test, it's really easy to spot. It's the ones that say mother's side. So I would click on them and I would view all shared matches, and I'd click every one of these and flag them as maternal side. And hope I said that right before. If not, you can correct me in the stuff. So that's how you would find out who your parents were, and you just go through and do the same thing for the other side of the family and triangulate it. Now it's a little more difficult as you go further down, because remember this closest one here was second cousin, so it's going to take a little more time on the other side. What does this look for another test? So let's look at somebody else's. Let's go to the DNA main page. And my wife, she also took the test, and this family is completely different than mine. Okay, so again, let's assume she has no DNA circles, doesn't have any through lines, no shared hints. We're just going to look at the matches. So we've got a great starting point here. Remember, I had a 1606 aunt. She's got, it looks like a 1079 first or second cousin. That's not a second cousin. Come on, Ancestry, not at that. Okay, so this is going to be a first cousin or closer, and we're going to look at this tree, okay? And we're going to ignore, it comes up with a common ancestor and all these DNA circles. We're just going to look at the tree. So again, we know this is a first cousin. And how do we know this? What was the match? Again, 1079. So we go into our DNA painter and we put 1079. And this person is our age, here's self, here's our row, and they're 1079. They're actually matching us way on the high road on this, okay? They're not younger than us, they're our same age. This is a very solid cousin match. Now, second cousin only goes up to 515 ancestry. Why would you even say it's possibly a second cousin? Doesn't even make sense. All right, but a first cousin, that means you share a grandparent. Your parent and their parent were the same. So with that, here are the parents, okay, right here and here, both marked private, and the grandparents are Phyllis Redding, Bryant Kennedy, and Waters and Veach. So we know that it was one of these, okay? And of course, it's easy for me because my wife's maiden name was Kennedy, but we're assuming that she was adopted now and she has some totally different name. But we know it's one of these four, and that in itself is pretty exciting. Just our first DNA match, we're able to say our family is either these two or these two. And because of the solid match, you don't get that high a first cousin match. That's not a half first cousin. That's a solid first cousin, which means you've got a definite kinship going on there. So we looky here, and we got 194, we got 7, 264. Let's look at this one, 264. It's another nice, good, solid match. Do we have any of the same people? Okay, remember, we're looking for Veach and Kennedy. Well, we spotted Kennedy right here. So we got Phyllis Kennedy, Bryant Kennedy, and that's what was on the other one. So we got Phyllis and Bryant, and we've got a child there. So we know now that this is our area. This is the tree. And so how they match, 449. And we know this person is about 20 years younger. So let's put in 449. And they're about 20 years younger. So here's self. So 449. It's not a half cousin. So it's a first cousin once removed. Okay, at 439, 449. So let's see if that matches out. If this was our grandparents, and this would be the level of our parents, this would be our level, and they're one below us. So that matches what we'd expect would be a first cousin once removed. So we now are very confident that we've got Bryant Kennedy and Phyllis Redding, as our grandparents. And rather than go into everything like we did before, you build out their tree. You find out who were all the kids of Bryant Kennedy and Phyllis Redding, and you're going to find out in this case that there was 5. And then you go and you match it with your other DNA matches in that match list, and you start parsing them off and building out that tree and figure out who it is the exact same way. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I talk real quick, and we just kind of get to the point and get moving, so you may have to back up into the video. But if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. And if you don't like it, let me know in the comments. I want to improve and give you better content. So I know we're just starting out and we don't have the high quality videos, and I don't spend a lot of time editing, so anything I say here is raw with mistakes. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, throw it as a subscribe. I appreciate that, and it helps. And as always, you have a great day.